Welcome to the In My Opinion Show with Ronald Berry Robinson and friends. Seen on the internet 24 hours, 7 days a week. To view, go to YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, or Ustream. And in the search field, type in RBRIMO to view our catalog of shows. The In My Opinion Show is also seen on Flint, Michigan Comcast Cable Channel 17 every Saturday at 6 and every Wednesday at 8:30. The In My Opinion Show is also seen on Detroit, Michigan Comcast Cable Channel 68 at various times. Please consult your calendar. Let's talk about DOMA, on verge of extinction. Extinction. Defense of Marriage Act. The Supreme Court argument on the constitutionality of the Defense of Marriage Act was rather predictable. So-called liberal justices can't get their minds around recognizing heterosexual marriage as deserving of special status. At the other end of the spectrum, Justice Anthony Scalia can't fathom anyone questioning a couple of thousand years of social convention. And then there is always Justice Anthony Kennedy, who is cautious but a firm believer in the 10th Amendment. The Supreme Court can find its way through a dense procedural thicket and confront the constitutionality of the federal law that defined marriage as limited to a man and a woman. That law may be gone. After 17-year existence, that was the overriding impression after just under 2 hours of arguments on the fate of the Defense of Marriage Act. Now, to our viewers, we have talked about same-sex marriage several times, all right? And just recently here, I guess yesterday, Rhode Island is the 10th state to sanction same-sex marriage. Now, in my opinion, all right, Scalia and some of the other right-wing justices, in my opinion, you know what I mean, they need to leave people's personal, private, sexual, what's the word I can use, preferences to them. Stay the hell out of other people's bedrooms. It's none of your business. If two women love each other and two men love each other and they want to be together, so be it. Let them be together, with all the benefits. Okay. You can't legislate who you're going to love. That's my opinion. Denise, what's your thoughts?
Well, I guess I probably am taking a more conservative position in this one. I personally believe in the sanctity of marriage between a man and a woman. I think, on the other hand, though, that there are relationships that have been established between same-sex partners, and I believe that they should be allowed to have some protection under the law. I think that they should be able to establish domiciles together if that's what they choose to do, and also to have financial support of one another through insurances and those kinds of things. Okay, but beyond that, my position as a Christian, I am for men and women being married.
Because as we look around the world, okay, every day it's being accepted, all right? Different countries, especially like in Canada and Sweden and Norway, all right? Here in the United States, 10 states already, all right? Why keep fighting a no-win battle? Because it's going to come to pass, all right? Just as sure as, I'm going to get off the topic just quickly, just like marijuana, it's going to come to pass, all right? Okay. It's going to happen. So why spend all these billions of dollars trying to fight something, okay, that's gonna take place anyway. Henry, what are your thoughts?
Well, Ron, in a way, I lean toward Denise's position, but more than that, I think I'm going to look at this from both a moral point of view and also a scientific point of view. Now, you know what zygotes are, right? You know, in chemistry, you have to have a sperm and an egg to produce a zygote.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nature says that's natural. This is what you must do to procreate, right? It's necessary for the preservation of the species that you have these two actions occurring. Nature says that that is the proper order for human beings. Now, there are some other forms of life that has both within them. And I think they are called hermaphroditic. There's the word. They have both organs and can reproduce, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Man cannot. So try to project yourself 1,000 years from now or 2,000 years from now when that becomes the norm. It means extinction.
Well, maybe it isn't.
Now, let me finish my
Okay.
thought here before you go. But the other part of it is the moral aspect of it, and there are some people who have moral issues with it. But I look at it from a standpoint that might argue is that nature says it's abnormal, and we don't want to produce ourselves to extinction. But I, like Denise says, I think that there are some relationships that have been established and that we need to recognize because they are there. And that protects the right of all people in a free and democratic society,
Mm-hmm.
if that's what we want to do. But I do believe right now we're cycling through time, space, and cultures. Because I remember when the Romans went through the same thing. And they had all of this stuff going on. And then after the Reformation, you didn't see it anymore. Now it's rising again. So I can't project too far back, but I think you go back to the Bible, and it's there too. Okay. But so I think that we're going through a cycle where we have to deal with it so that we don't, so that we stabilize society. I think you're right, sir, that it's only a matter of time when we have to accept it as part of us. But we need to make sure that we protect the rights of marriage. We need to protect the rights of marriage. It's the right thing to do. We can still have these other ongoing nuances, but we need to protect the right of marriage.
Well, why can't we do both?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And when people, same-sex individuals, get involved in a relationship, they already know, all right, that that they can't recreate, okay? In the natural way of things, okay? Yeah, they can adopt, and and a woman can, she can
Be artificially inseminated.
Exactly. All right.
But we don't want to.
They know that, and this is only a small segment, all right, of the population, that are involved, that want to have relationships with the same, with the same sex.
And I have no problems with that. But as long as we protect the sanctity of marriage. Because sometimes if you get overwhelming support from the other side, they'll kill it.
Right.
You just got to make sure that somehow we have a strong basis to protect marriage as the right order of things that nature has planned for us. And I do think, like you said, marijuana, all of those things are coming to pass. But we do need to, the question is, can we protect the sanctity of marriage? We know that it's coming, but we've got to have enough of a strategy and a basis to protect that which nature has intended for us to follow.
Well, I think, in my opinion, I think we can do both.
Well, that's just it. And that's why I say, I take the position that I take because I know that there are people who have a more liberal stance and believe that, there is a marriage that can occur between, two same-sex individuals. And my definition of marriage and their definition is different because, like I say, a marriage to me is a man and a woman. Others who choose to, make that distinction, then they should have the ability to receive protection under the law. They should receive insurances. They should receive all of, the benefits. But I separate that idea of going down the aisle and all of that as something sacred unto a marriage relationship between a male and a female. And you asked me my opinion, and that is my opinion.
Okay, well, that's what all of us is our opinions.
But some opinions weigh more than others.
Right,
Sure.
Because they're based in some common sense, good judgment, facts.
Right, right, and your upbringing, your moral teachings and your upbringing, and so there is my basis. And so someone who does not, agree with that point of view or have not been brought up that way, they may have a different stance, and I respect anybody else's opinion, but I want mine respected as well.
I can understand that. Let's change gears here. Just kind of like in the opposite. Why is it so important for the abortion rights opponents to continue to challenge and try to overturn Roe versus Wade? Hey, what's your thoughts on that? Why do they continually?
That's based basically on there are two sides. If on any issue, Ron, there's a petition between 50% petition between those who believe one way and those who believe another way. And as Denise has said, some of this stuff is based on moral, the way people be moral. And nobody says that people who are moral are right.
Right.
But it's their view, and you have to respect that. Now, in this case, Roe versus Wade, people want to overturn it because they don't like the idea of aborting children. That is just tough for some people to deal with. And Ron, I would have never been born if Roe versus Wade were a situation when I was born. Because my mother had 11 children.
Okay.
And there was no need to have 11 children.
Well, my aunt had 19.
Oh, wow.
So,
well,
My grandma had 15.
she was busy.
yeah, okay. Now, notice, we would be nowhere here. Not that we're not discussing right and wrong, but we're discussing the probability of and the consequences of Roe versus Wade as we project into the future. And some kids won't be here because it's easy to kill them. People who have children who want to have sex should either learn how to use sex for the enjoyment and not engage in producing another life form, only to be killed at their discretion. Something bigger than the individual must take charge. Like the law, God, whomever, or somebody with better judgment than they have. So that the idea of life is protected. You only have one life, and that life is so really, really tenuous. It is the probability, if we were to go back to the times that we were born, it is highly improbable that the events would not have occurred that second time that we would ever be born. The events, so many of them, that your dad was at the right time and place to meet your mom, that your mom was receptive to him, that they didn't have a fight that night, that they didn't...
Well, they had a fight. They made up.
Yeah, okay, that's... but stop and think about how valuable life is. And some people who do believe, who protect life as a right to lifers, they do believe that they have a position that's not only justified in their own thoughts, in their own minds, that they can justify it because they know the process of being born, and they know that it's unlike God's intent.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe in God, or you believe in any kind of dominant voice in the universe, because they don't think it's right.
Absolutely. And up until that point, what you say makes sense. The thing that is troubling is when you have a situation when there's incest or rape. Now, what do you do about that? What do you do? Now, again, you're in a moral dilemma, okay? Should that child be brought forth, okay? Some would argue and say, regardless, the child should be brought forth. What happens to that mother who's been traumatized from all of that? You know, these are decisions that, again, because this is the female who is the receptor and also the one that carries that seed, is the one that should have a decision in this. And no one should be in a position to legislate whether this is something that should go forth or not.
In those circumstances, I agree.
But then there's those opponents that say, hey, you know what I mean? We want her to have the baby. All right, it's easy for somebody to say, hey, look, all right, go and have that child regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that that's totally is a disservice. You know what I mean, to that woman. Okay, especially the trauma that she's been through. Okay, now maybe she would have that child. Okay, now she's having a child that she doesn't want. So now what happens with that child? All right.
Ron, the overwhelming, we are all reasonable human beings, most of us, all 6 billion of us.
9 billion.
Okay.
Well, you see, the likelihood of them going along with a circumstance where a woman has been raped or brutalized or incestivized or whatever you want to call it, they're likely to shift a little bit. But under normal circumstances, they just follow that petition. But there are circumstances where people are shift.
But when you got congressmen like Aiken,
He's only one.
all right, I consider him an idiot, for what he blew out of his mouth. You know what I mean? As it refers to rape, etc., etc. But it should not be up to. There's 535, in Congress. The vast majority of them are males, white males. All right.
Right.
Now, it shouldn't be up to them to try to change, this Roe versus Wade. All right. But every few years, here it comes back again. Here it comes back again. Okay. Now, they could be playing to their base, to get votes. But that's something that if I were running for office, I would not, the hell with my base if that's got to, if I got to do something I don't want to do just to get elected. But there's so many people, there's so many officials out there that will sell their souls, all right? And that's what I have a problem with, If a woman wants to have a baby, all right, whether she's married or one night stand, okay, so be it, all right. But at the same time, I think she should be, try to be as responsible as she can. I mean, we've got homes that are overpopulated with children, like thousands, here in the United States that that people don't want.
Exactly.
See, and that's just another pipeline to prison.
Not only that, it's that, you have people who are off on a tangent about, the Roe versus Wade, and they're out in front of clinics, not so much anymore, but used to be, and, you just kind of wonder, instead of taking that energy and being outside in front of a clinic or a hospital or whatever, why not take that same energy and put it towards adopting some of these children that are without parents, you know? Or look at the number of children who come into the world and are not adequately cared for and end up being abused or murdered by their parents because they don't know how to handle the stress of being a parent. You understand? So when children come into the world, like any of the other things that we happen to gain in our possession as things, we usually have some kind of a direction on how to deal with it, instructions on how to deal with it. Children don't come into the world with that. Parenting is on the job training, okay? And if you have not had anybody kind of give you a snapshot of what good parenting looks like, then you go on for what you know. And sometimes that's just not good or appropriate. And so the children come here and they end up suffering, So, as I, sit here and I talk about it, I wrestle with the issue again, because again, from my beliefs, thou shalt not kill, I got that, but the Bible also said there's a time to kill, there's time for war, there's time for peace. So we have to look at everything in its totality. How is it going to affect the situation as a whole? And when you have, again, when I talk about the women who have been forced into a situation, that's just not for anybody to legislate. If women are using abortion as a means of birth control, then they need to be educated so that they know that there are some other options outside of that. And clearly, they should get the support of the people that are in their lives, particularly the men in their lives, And a lot of times they don't get that. And so they're up to the challenge of, okay, I'm having this kid, I'm not ready for it, I'm going to have to fend for myself alone. What are my choices here? If I go to the dad and he says, well, maybe it's mine, maybe it's not. She's heartbroken, So you've got all of these different variables that come into play. That's why no one, in my opinion, should be down there trying to legislate this thing, because it's too sensitive and it's too personal. It's a personal situation for that woman who has to deal with it. A man doesn't have to deal with pregnancy, although technology and all the rest of that stuff in the future, who knows? A man may be able to carry a child, but right now he's not doing that.
Okay. My final comment on this is we blame the politicians, but politicians are influenced by their constituency.
Right.
Now, just to illustrate to you, you have the president sitting in the White House, and he wants to move issues on his agenda. But there are people back home who says, Barack Obama, do not waver on this, or we will withdraw our support from you. On the Republican side, the same thing. Republicans say, well, Barack Obama, if you don't agree with this, we're not going to support you. We're going to fight you to the death so that you'll get nothing done, okay? Now, where is that influence coming from? It's coming from people just like you and I sitting around this table, just like the people that live in our communities, just like those who asked President Obama, do not concede anything, do not compromise. Republicans the same way. And guess who the third enemy conflict is, source of conflict? The press, who when they get closer together to a decision, guess what the press says? The press will raise a question to create doubt. And now you got to start this whole fight over again. So there are things that's beyond our ability to solve our problem. We have to go to the rock bottom and start over to become better. It's not always the politicians. It's those people that's behind us who don't agree with, in my opinion. Sure.
and also too, when you have children that you don't want, all right, they're not going to get the the love and the support that they, you know, that they need, that they deserve. Now, I've got children, okay? Sometimes they piss me off like you wouldn't believe, all right? So, and I love them. So if you got a child that you don't want,
give it to me.
You know what I mean? You can see the horror. I mean, you know what I mean? That would possibly take place.
Sure.
Okay. And that's the thing. I guess that's the thing that I fight against in terms of, you know, if the woman doesn't want the child, don't make her have it. All right. She wants it. You know what I mean? Whether she's married or unwed, okay. Then that's her choice. Let these folks have a choice. This has been a great conversation. This is Ronald Barry Robinson and friends saying until next time, stay focused.